Hi, I'm Morgan Ellis-Jones. I'm a sound designer and composer, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the FMod side of this little redesigned project, where I'm going to show you how I've used FMod's various functions to create a very dynamic, layered sound to this game object, the portal Ash-Alt, that can effectively be plugged into any engine like Unity and Unreal, as long as it can handle the parameters that I've set up, so that in various instances this sound can dynamically react to what's happening to it. So it's a very interesting sound, so let's get stuck in. Okay, so first up we've got the sound of the sword ability being activated. So this would trigger when the player has pressed their ultimate button, and what happens in game is that the character brings out their sword, which is going to initiate the whole act of creating the portal, and they hold it there in an idle state while the player is choosing where to end their portal. And so the sword, because it has this kind of electrical energy to it, is buzzing and fizzing away while the sword is in this idle state. And that needs to loop seamlessly, and then at some point when the player presses the go button, it will slash and go into another state. So in this case, what we've got is the initial sting sound of the sword coming out, and it seamlessly cutting into a looping sound. And instead of the sounds just sort of boringly cutting out, fading to zero very quickly when the player chooses to cancel, there is a little extra sound that plays to really hammer home that the ability has been cancelled, and gives a little extra feedback so that the player knows exactly what's happened, that they have stopped the process. So if I just hit play here, what you'll initially hear is the build-up and the impact of the sound of the sword coming out. Just jumping in here to say that I forgot to mention that the sword readying sound actually has a couple of variations. I've bounced out a couple of variations of the sound, as well as some variation in the pitch of the sound. So depending on when you play it, you'll get a slightly different version of the sound to stop it getting boring. And then the loop, which will trigger, and I'll let it play for a few seconds so you can hear that it will go infinitely until the player does something. And then what I've got here is a little parameter that, when switched from 0 to 1, which again is something the engine can handle, that will stop the sound at the same time as a bassy fuzz sound that initiates the loop to be stopped. So that's what's going to happen. Let's have a listen to that. That's going to keep looping forever. And then the player hits cancel on the ability, and it stops. Okay, so in this example, this is the noise that plays when the player enters the portal they've just created and travels through it and then reaches the end. So it feels fairly simple to begin with, that you've got an initial impact sound and an ending impact sound for them entering and then leaving, but the middle part has to be looped seamlessly and be able to be stopped at any point, because the ability allows you to choose where in the world to place your portal, and so that will change the amount of time you spend traveling through, as well as many other factors that will affect the speed that you go through the thing. So it needs to be dynamic, the amount of time you spend listening to that fly through sound. So what I've got here is a setup where the initial sound will play. It's a very quick sort of sucking in sound when they enter the portal. It'll loop this whistling sound as things fly past your ears as you're going very quickly through this portal. And then once you get to the end, this parameter once again will be changed from 0 to 1 in engine, and that will trigger the sound to a little slower than the previous one, ramp down in volume, and pull down this low pass filter in sync with another sound that slowly ramps up and initializes not just the end stinger sound, but also the game object actually stays around in the world for a while other players can enter it. And so that exit of the tunnel needs to stay around in the world for a while as a 3D object. And so when this final exit stinger sound plays, it actually initiates playing another looped instance of a kind of like whistling, glitchy, fizzing sound of the exit portal sticking around in the world. Let's have a listen to that. This is going to keep going forever until they exit the portal, and for the game engine to tell FMod that they've exited, this parameter can be changed from 0 to 1, and that's them exiting the portal, and there you go, you can hear the loop of the exit game object staying in the world. So the final event that we've got here to talk about is very similar to the previous example I gave, where once the player has exited that portal, the ending state of that portal, the exit doorway, stays in the world for a while, creating a looped sound. The entrance portal also has a sound, and as you might have seen in the clip, it's quite an interesting, dynamic, visual object. It moves around depending on the way you're looking at it, and also you can see that as you get closer to it, basically indicating that something interesting is going to happen if you get very, very close to it. You can see there's a sort of fizzling light in the center that emanates out. And I've reflected that in my sound design in that the sound coming from this entrance portal can be heard from quite a way away. It's a functional thing as well. It will be a game design thing that you want players who've created the portal, their teammates and enemies, to be able to hear where this portal is. So it's quite a wide sound that can be heard from a long way away. But when you get very close to it, extra features of the sound are revealed, an extra character to it, which includes a kind of glitching, buzzing sound very close to your ears, as well as a deeper, more subbier bass. So that'll be revealed when you get very, very close to it. You'll be able to see that as I play with this 3D preview here. While this sound loops, you can hear that when I'm over here, you'll just hear probably this track here, but when I get closer, as it's reflected in the distance attenuation, these two tracks will come into play and be a lot louder. So let's have a listen to that. So this is what you can hear from further away, and then once you get much closer, you'll hear those higher sounds and the extra sub bass. Hopefully you can hear that if you're listening on your headphones. And that sound will fall off much quicker than the original flatter loop that you're hearing now. So this will take a while to fall off the further away you get. Whereas that very close sound comes up sharply and then goes away sharply. And at some point, this idle looping portal sound has to end because the game object eventually evaporates, it goes away. And so with that comes a slowly ramping up stinger sound that will trigger once the timer's about to run out in engine. The parameter here can be adjusted from 0 to 1, and that will start the process of this ending sound ramping up. And once it reaches its peak, it will also coincide with the looping sound ending, which is a quick fade away and yeah, similar to the other sounds. So let's just preview that too. And that's that. So thank you for listening to this. Hopefully you can see how I'm capable of creating dynamic sounds that can talk to the developers and have a function in terms of game design, as well as just having intrinsic value as nice sounds. And programs like FMod enable me to do that. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you later.